Okay, we're going to start with CREF. CREF is more universal, by the way. So let's say you're retired. All right, you've worked your 20, 30, 40 years. You're retired, and you have money in TIAA and in CREF. And by the way, the rules are different, much different for CREF and TIAA. But here's the general CREF rules. You have a lot of options. Now remember, you've never paid tax on this money. What are you allowed to do? You could take all your money. You have $1 million in CREF. I want it all today. You can get it. You have to pay tax on it. That would be the stupidest thing you could do. But you're allowed to do that. All right? The other thing that you could do is say, gee, I think that I would prefer different investment choices than CREF. I want to put it in Vanguard. I want to use a private money manager. I would prefer my money be invested in index funds. So you could take your money in CREF and do either a rollover or technically a transfer to trustee transfer and switch it to a different investment set of choices, typically going into an IRA. Totally reasonable choice. You can do a systematic withdrawal. You say, hey, I need $5,000 a month. Even though I'm not yet 70, I still need the money because I didn't have any savings, and that's all I have is money in the TIAA-CREF. I want $5,000 a month, $7,000 a month, $2,000 a month, whatever you want. And you could do that. The other thing you could do is you could do something called the MDO, minimum distribution option. What the minimum distribution option is you say, well, I have other monies that I could spend. Or maybe you're retired, or maybe you're still working at a different organization, and we'll talk about that. So I don't want, just because of that graph that I was talking about right here, you don't want to take your retirement money, so you say, I don't want the retirement money. You guys hang on to it. But when I'm 70 and I have to take minimum required distributions, then you calculate that and give me the minimum distribution. All right? So that's what the minimum distributions, and here's what I mean by no limits. Let's say your minimum distribution is $50,000, and one year you want $75,000. Great, take $75,000. You have to pay tax on it, but you could take out as much or as little as you like. No limit. It just has to be the minimum distribution, and that kicks in April 1st of the year following year you turn 70 and a half. Okay? Roy?
What is the minimum distribution?
What is the minimum distribution? I'm going to simplify and say it's 70, it's roughly 4% of the balance, but I'm going to do much more details coming up. The other thing that you could do is you could annuitize. What is annuitizing? This is a very, very important concept. That's basically where you let TIAA-CREF hold your money, you give it to them all, and in return you get an income stream for the rest of your life. Okay? Back in the old days, my mom was a college professor. When she retired in 1970, she didn't have any of these options. She had to annuitize, meaning she wasn't able to get one nickel out of TIAA-CREF, but she got an income stream every month for the rest of her life. So what TIAA-CREF did is they calculated how long they thought she was going to live. They calculated what the interest rate was going to be, or what they thought it was going to be, and they set her up on a schedule. You get so much per month, every month for the rest of your life. And that's actually exactly what happened. And according to the actuaries, she should have made it till maybe, her early or mid-80s. And it turned out she lived till 95. So we won. That's what annuitizing is. You give up your money in exchange for an income stream for the rest of your life. Now, here again, I'm going to give you different advice than you're going to get from most financial advisors. Most financial advisors will say, oh, I can invest much better than TIAA-CREF don't annuitize, let me manage all your money, and don't bother annuitizing anything. I disagree with that. I'll tell you what I like. I like having a certain base. Food on the table, gas in the car, little money for Saturday night. You know you're going to get a certain amount in Social Security. If you annuitize enough so that you at least cover your base or cover a good chunk of your base, that is kind of like a guaranteed income for the rest of both of your lives. Now, would you do this if your health is really bad and you have a short life expectancy? Well, certainly not. And typically, if you're married, you're going to do a 2-life annuity, meaning you're going to not only annuitize for your own life, but you're going to annuitize for your spouse's life. But right now, in my opinion, is a pretty bad time to annuitize. Because if you annuitize, they're going to base how much you're going to get on current interest rates, which are pretty bad. So you, in effect, would be locking in a low interest rate for the rest of your life, and you'd be really irritated if you annuitized a bunch of money, got a relatively low rate, then 5 years from now the interest rates go way up, but you're stuck at that low annuity amount. So in general, even though I do like annuitizing a portion of the TIAA-CREF, right now I don't, because the interest rates are too late, except if you have some very old TIAA, some of that money in TIAA is kind of like in layers. So if you have, I'm skipping ahead to the TIAA part, but if you have TIAA, you actually have multiple vintages of TIAA, and they actually are pretty good at keeping track of it. So let's just think about this logically. 10 years ago, when interest rates were a lot higher, what was TIAA doing? They were buying bonds, okay? Those bonds are worth a lot more than today's bonds because they're a much higher interest rate. If you still own some of those bonds, that's a good thing. And if you annuitize some of those bonds, they will give you a higher rate than they would with more recent accumulations. But annuitizing is, but in general, subject to exception, I like the idea for healthy people to annuitize a portion of their money, certainly not all of it. Jonathan Clemens says income-hungry people should consider annuitizing 40%. By the way, that's much higher than most of my clients. But here's the way that works, and I'm just going to spend a little time on this because I think it's important.
Jim,
Yeah.
On the example you just gave in terms of TIA, you can't target the level of bonds that you have in TIA for annuitizing.
All right, the question is, if you annuitize, can you say, well, I only want to annuitize the good layers, the high interest?
Right.
No, you can't. They will do it pro rata. Good try. Bill has larceny of the heart. He's always going to go for it.
No cuffs, though. No cuffs so far.
Jay.
I've heard that TIAA's annuities are not very favorable compared to the market. Is that true?
The question is, he's heard TIAA annuities are not favorable to the market. Let me answer that in 2 ways. First, let's assume that let's say you have nothing to do with the university, all right? And you like the idea of what's called an immediate annuity, all right? And you could go to the XYZ insurance company and buy an immediate annuity, or you could go to TIAA and buy an immediate annuity. You will likely get more money at the XYZ insurance company. But the way TIAA works is they will give you a certain guarantee, but if they do better, they will give you a dividend. So it's hard to compare because the guarantee from the private sector is often higher than the TIAA portion, but you don't get a dividend usually with an immediate annuity. By the way, I don't like commercial annuities or tax-deferred annuities, which is what a lot of these financial advisors sell. This is a different different deal completely, and it's easy to get mixed up because it's the same word, annuity. An immediate annuity is a relatively simple contract. You give the insurance company money, they pay you monthly for the rest of your life, for the rest of you and your wife's life. Sometimes there's like a 10-year guarantee. If you both die, they'll keep paying your kids or something like that. Now, what if you have, that's new money. And that's not most of you. Most of you guys have old money. I'm going to say 9 times out of 10, I think it's going to be very hard for XYZ insurance company to do as well as the old money in TIAA. So, and by the way, this is against self-interest because I am licensed to sell these insurance policies or these annuities, but typically, if somebody has TIAA and it is appropriate to annuitize or to get some type of annuity guaranteed income, I will typically, even though I don't make a dime on it, recommend that they annuitize their TIAA because that is doing better than they could get with the XYZ insurance company. Okay? The other thing is, TIAA is a pretty solid company. I mean, it's huge, and it's pretty well run. And the returns are pretty good for a fixed income account. You know, you compare your TIAA with a CD, and you'll know how good it is. Yes?
Can you comment on Vanguard annuities in comparison to market or TIAA?
All right. Well, Vanguard annuities, Vanguard, I have a high regard for Vanguard. John Bogle was on my radio show. Vanguard is a much better than average set of index funds. They offer a whole slew of annuities. They do not have the layering that TIAA has. Most of my clients started way back when, and most of them have TIAA. It's the more recent folks or people who have switched over that have the Vanguard. But even the people who switched over, and by the way, you might find reason to prefer Vanguard over TIAA-CREF after we get into that. You still have your TIAA, and for reasons that I'll get into later, it's probably a good idea to hang on to it.
Jim, I think CREF offers a variable annuity, which I think you have not mentioned.
All right, and that is correct. If you, by the way, that is annuitizing. If you annuitize your CREF, you don't get, you get in effect an amount that varies as the market varies. So my mom, for example, got 2 checks, one from TIAA that was pretty predictable, and the other one was from CREF. And when the market was up, she got more money. When the market was down, she got less money. So that is also, for whatever it's worth, I don't tend to use CREF annuities because I like to annuitize the safe money. All right? That's really a variable annuity. And variable annuities don't have a great reputation. CREF is probably one of the better variable annuities. I just prefer to figure out my safe money, and then I do my money in the market outside of annuities. You know, people want to be safe today. People want to have food on the table, gas in the car, little money for Saturday night. You know, that to me, before we start getting cute, let's get that first.